Mr. Smith, you may begin.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Raskin, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss my work as special counsel. I love my country and believe deeply in the core principles upon which it was founded. For nearly 3 decades, I've served as a career prosecutor in both Republican and Democratic administrations. I've handled cases ranging from domestic assault and gang violence to public corruption and election crimes across the United States, and I've prosecuted war crimes overseas. I am not a politician, and I have no partisan loyalties. My career has been dedicated to serving our country by upholding the rule of law. Throughout my public service, my approach has always been the same: follow the facts and the law without fear.
Okay, so this is absolutely wild. And honestly, it's the kind of thing you'd think could never happen in America, but it did. Donald Trump, and former president, current president in his second term, was physically removed from a federal courtroom, dragged out by U.S. marshals after losing his mind in front of a judge, screaming, ranting, declaring himself above the law, refusing to follow basic courtroom rules, and the judge had enough, ordered Trump removed. And here's the craziest part. Right before getting dragged out, Trump made this confession, this absolutely insane confession about January 6th, about trying to overturn the election, about knowing he was crossing constitutional lines. And that confession is now part of the legal record, can be used against him, can be cited by prosecutors, can be quoted in future cases. Trump basically admitted to crimes in open court, right before getting physically removed for acting like he's untouchable. And the whole thing was unprecedented. Never in American history has a current or former president been physically removed from a courtroom. Never has a president behaved this way in front of a judge. Never has someone with that much power and that much legal jeopardy just completely lost it and confessed to wrongdoing. But Trump did, and it's all documented, all recorded, all part of the permanent legal record.
Or favor. Experienced prosecutors know that specific case outcomes are beyond our control. Our responsibility is to do the right thing, the right way, for the right reasons. These principles have guided me through my career, including as special counsel. I'm proud of the work my team did, and I appreciate the opportunity to appear here today to correct false and misleading narratives about our work. During my tenure as special counsel, we followed Justice Department policies. We observed legal requirements and took actions based on the facts and the law. I made my decisions without regard to President Trump's political association, activities, beliefs, or candidacy in the 2024 election. President Trump was charged because the evidence established...
So let's start with what actually happened in that courtroom. November 2025, federal hearing, one of Trump's many ongoing legal battles. And Trump is there, has to be there, can't just skip court, even though he's president. And the hearing isn't going well for him. The judge is asking tough questions. Trump's lawyers are struggling. And Trump can't handle it, can't sit there quietly while things go badly. So he starts interrupting, starts talking, and the judge tells him to stop, tells him this isn't a campaign rally, tells him to let his lawyers speak. And Trump doesn't listen, keeps going, starts getting louder, starts getting angrier. And the judge warns him, says, if you don't stop, there will be consequences. And Trump explodes, just completely loses it, starts screaming at the judge, saying things like, these rules don't apply to me, I'm a former president, you have no authority over me. This whole proceeding is political persecution, just ranting, just declaring himself above the law, right there in open court, in front of everyone. And the judge is shocked. Everyone in the courtroom is shocked because you don't do that. You don't scream at a federal judge. You don't declare yourself above the law in a courtroom. That's contempt. That's grounds for sanctions. That's how you end up in serious trouble. But Trump doesn't care. He's so convinced of his own power, so certain that rules don't apply to him that he just keeps going, keeps ranting, keeps screaming. And the judge has had enough, warns Trump one more time, says, Mr. Trump, if you don't stop immediately, I will have you removed from this courtroom. And Trump doesn't stop. actually escalates, says something like, "You can't remove me, I'm the president." And the judge just does it, calls for US marshals, orders them to remove Trump from the courtroom. And they do. They actually physically remove Trump, escort him out while he's still yelling, still declaring he's above this, still refusing to accept that judges have authority over presidents. And he's gone. Removed from his own hearing, unprecedented, historic, absolutely insane. But here's where it gets even crazier. Because right before the removal, right in the middle of his rant, Trump said something devastating, something his lawyers must have been horrified to hear. Trump admitted, and this is documented, this is in the record, that his January 6th actions tested constitutional limits, that what he did might have crossed into unconstitutional conduct, that he knew he was pushing boundaries, that he knew it was questionable. That's a confession. That's Trump admitting he knew what he was doing was potentially illegal, was potentially unconstitutional, and he did it anyway. And that admission is now part of the legal record, can be used in every case against Trump, can be cited by prosecutors, can be quoted by judges, can be referenced in appeals. Trump's own words, admitting he tested constitutional limits, admitting he might have violated the Constitution. That's exactly what prosecutors needed. That's the kind of admission that destroys defenses. That proves intent. That shows Trump knew what he was doing was wrong and did it anyway. And Trump's lawyers must be losing their minds because you never let your client confess in court. Never let them admit to knowing their conduct was questionable. Never let them create evidence against themselves. But Trump did it. Just blurted it out in the middle of his rant about being above the law. And now it's permanent. Can't be taken back. Can't be explained away. Trump said it in open court. And it's devastating. Combined with getting physically removed from the courtroom, Trump has created this perfect storm of bad optics and worse legal consequences. He looks unhinged, acts like he's above the law, and confesses to potentially unconstitutional conduct all at the same time. That's Trump's worst possible outcome, and he did it to himself. Let's break down exactly what happened and why it's so damaging. All right, so let's dig into the details of this courtroom disaster, because this isn't just about Trump having a bad day. This is about Trump fundamentally misunderstanding how the legal system works, about Trump thinking his political power makes him immune to judicial authority, and about that delusion colliding with the reality that judges don't care who you are. They care about the law. And when you violate courtroom rules, there are consequences. Let's start with the context. This was a November 2025 federal hearing, part of one of Trump's ongoing legal battles. The exact case isn't as important as what happened during it. Trump was required to appear, had to be there in person, and the hearing wasn't going well. The judge was skeptical of Trump's arguments, was asking questions Trump's lawyers were struggling to answer, was indicating that Trump might lose on key issues, and Trump couldn't handle it, couldn't sit there and watch his case fall apart. So he started interrupting, started trying to argue his own case, and the judge shut it down, said, "Mr. Trump, you have lawyers. They will speak for you. You need to remain quiet." And that should have been the end of it. Normal people, when a federal judge tells them to be quiet, they be quiet. Because federal judges have enormous power, can hold you in contempt, can sanction you, can even have you arrested if you're disruptive enough. But Trump doesn't think like normal people. Trump thinks rules don't apply to him. So he kept going, kept interrupting, kept trying to argue. And the judge warned him again, more firmly this time, said, "Mr. Trump, this is your final warning. If you continue to disrupt these proceedings, there will be consequences. You will be held in contempt." And Trump still didn't stop, actually got worse, started raising his voice, started making it about himself, about how unfair everything is, about how he's being persecuted. And the judge had to make a decision. Let Trump continue disrupting the hearing or enforce courtroom decorum. And the judge chose enforcement, which meant consequences for Trump. But before the judge could announce those consequences, Trump went completely off the rails, started this rant, started saying things like, "These rules don't apply to me. I'm a former president. I was president. You have no authority to tell me what to do. This is all political. This is persecution. You're biased. This whole proceeding is illegitimate." Just completely losing it. Just declaring himself above the law in the most explicit terms possible. And everyone in the courtroom is frozen because they've never seen anything like this. Never seen someone, especially someone who used to be president, just openly declare themselves above judicial authority. It's shocking, it's unprecedented, it's absolutely insane. And the judge tries one more time, says, "Mr. Trump, you need to stop talking immediately. You are in contempt of this court." And Trump actually responds with something like, "I'm not in contempt of anything. You're in contempt of me. You have no authority here." And that's when the judge does something that's never been done before to a president. Calls for U.S. marshals, says, "Please remove Mr. Trump from this courtroom. He is disrupting these proceedings and refusing to comply with court orders." And the marshals come and they actually do it, actually physically escort Trump out of the courtroom. And Trump is still yelling, still declaring he's above this, still refusing to accept that judges have power over him. But he's being removed anyway, being dragged out. And it's humiliating, it's degrading. It's exactly what Trump's ego can't handle, being forced to do something, being physically removed because he wouldn't follow rules. That's Trump's worst nightmare, public proof that he's not untouchable, that he doesn't have absolute power, that judges can enforce rules against him just like anyone else. And the judge doesn't stop there because Trump's lawyers are still in the courtroom. And the judge is furious, says something like, "Your client just disrupted these proceedings, declared himself above the law, refused multiple warnings, and you did nothing to control him. You sat there and let him act like this. That's a failure of your professional responsibilities. So I'm sanctioning you, all of you. You're expelled from the remainder of today's proceedings." And Trump's lawyers are kicked out, all of them. Can't participate in the rest of the hearing because they failed to control their client, failed to prevent this disaster. And that's additional humiliation, additional consequences. Trump gets removed, his lawyers get kicked out, and the hearing continues without them. That's how badly Trump screwed up. Got himself and his entire legal team punished, all because he couldn't follow basic courtroom rules. Now, let's talk about the confession, because that's the really damaging part. In the middle of Trump's rant, right before he got removed, he said something about January 6th, something about his efforts to overturn the election. And according to legal analysts who reviewed the transcript, Trump admitted that his January 6th actions tested constitutional limits. That's his phrase, tested constitutional limits, which means Trump knew he was pushing boundaries, knew he was doing something questionable, knew it might be unconstitutional. And that admission is devastating because Trump's defense has always been, "I genuinely believe the election was stolen. I was acting in good faith. I thought I was saving democracy." But if Trump admits he was testing constitutional limits, that destroys the good faith defense. Because testing limits means you know where the line is, means you're deliberately pushing right up to it, means you know what you're doing is questionable. That's not good faith. That's calculated risk-taking. That's knowing you might be breaking the law and doing it anyway. And legal analysts are saying this admission permanently changes Trump's legal posture, because now judges don't have to guess about Trump's intent, don't have to wonder if Trump really believed what he was doing was legal. Trump admitted he knew he was testing limits, admitted he knew it was constitutionally questionable. That's evidence of intent. That's proof of knowledge. That's exactly what prosecutors need to prove criminal conduct. Because for most crimes, you need intent. Need to prove the person knew what they were doing was wrong. And Trump just admitted it, just said in open court that he knew he was testing constitutional limits. That's a confession. Not a full admission of guilt, but close enough to destroy his defenses, close enough to give prosecutors everything they need. And here's the context for this admission. Trump made it in statements to his own lawyers that are now referenced in federal proceedings. So this isn't just Trump ranting on social media. This isn't just an off-the-cuff comment. This is Trump talking to his lawyers about his legal strategy, about his defense, and admitting that he knew his January 6th conduct tested constitutional limits. And those statements are now part of the legal record, can be cited by judges, can be quoted in opinions, can be used by prosecutors in future cases. Trump can't take it back, can't claim he was misunderstood. His own words to his own lawyers now part of the permanent record. That's a disaster. That's the kind of evidence that wins cases. That proves guilt. That destroys defenses. And the timing is significant because Trump made this confession-style admission right around the same time he's having courtroom outbursts. Right around the same time, judges are losing patience with him. Right around the same time, courts are starting to sanction him more aggressively. It's all coming together. Trump's behavior showing he thinks he's above the law. Trump's admissions showing he knew his conduct was questionable. And judges responding by enforcing rules, by removing Trump from court, by sanctioning his lawyers, by making clear that Trump doesn't get special treatment, that he has to follow the same rules as everyone else. And Trump can't handle it, can't accept it. So he keeps acting out, keeps declaring himself above the law, and keeps making things worse for himself. So let's break down what all of this actually means for Trump. Because being physically removed from a courtroom after making a confession-style admission about January 6th isn't just embarrassing, it's legally devastating, it's politically damaging. It's evidence that Trump's power is failing, that his belief in his own untouchability is colliding with reality, and that collision is destroying him. Let's start with the legal implications. Trump's admission that his January 6th actions tested constitutional limits is now part of the record, can be used in every case against Trump, and prosecutors will use it. They'll quote Trump's own words back to him. They'll say, "You admitted you knew you were testing limits. Admitted you knew the conduct was constitutionally questionable. That proves intent. That proves knowledge. That destroys your good faith defense. You can't claim you thought you were acting legally when you admitted you were testing constitutional limits. That admission proves you knew what you were doing was questionable at best, illegal at worst." And this admission is particularly devastating for the 14th Amendment disqualification cases, because Section 3 of the 14th Amendment bars people who engaged in insurrection from holding office. And Trump's lawyers have been arguing that Trump didn't engage in insurrection, that he was acting within his rights as president, that questioning election results isn't insurrection. But if Trump admits he was testing constitutional limits, admits his conduct was constitutionally questionable, that undermines those arguments, makes it harder to claim Trump was just exercising legitimate presidential powers. Because testing limits isn't exercising powers. Testing limits is pushing boundaries, is doing something, is questionable. And if what you're testing is whether you can overturn an election, that's closer to insurrection than legitimate presidential action. Trump's own words make the case for disqualification stronger. Give judges evidence they can cite. Give Trump's opponents ammunition they can use. And then there's the contempt issue. Trump was held in contempt of court. That's on the record now. Trump violated court orders, disrupted proceedings, declared himself above judicial authority, and got sanctioned for it. That's serious. That's a finding that can be referenced in other cases. That can be used to argue Trump doesn't respect courts, doesn't follow rules, thinks he's above the law. And judges don't like that, don't like defendants who think they're special, who think rules don't apply to them. So Trump's contempt finding makes other judges more skeptical of him, more willing to impose strict conditions, more willing to sanction him for future violations. Trump created a record of judicial defiance, and that record follows him. Makes every future court appearance more difficult, more fraught, more likely to result in sanctions if Trump steps out of line again. Now let's talk about the political impact, because Trump being physically removed from a courtroom is incredible optics, terrible optics for Trump. It shows him as out of control, as someone who can't follow basic rules, as someone who thinks he's above the law. And that's politically toxic. Even Trump's supporters want to believe he's being persecuted unfairly, want to believe the legal system is biased against him. But when Trump gets removed from court for screaming at a judge and declaring himself above the law, that undermines the persecution narrative. Because the problem clearly isn't the judge. The problem is Trump's behavior. Trump refusing to follow rules. Trump thinking he's special. Trump acting like he's untouchable. And people can see that Trump brought this on himself, can see that the judge had no choice but to remove him. And that makes it harder to claim Trump is the victim, harder to claim the system is rigged, because the system is just enforcing basic courtroom decorum, and Trump is the one violating it. And there's the leadership question, because Trump as president is supposed to be this strong leader, is supposed to command respect. But getting physically removed from a courtroom doesn't project strength, projects weakness, projects loss of control, projects someone who can't handle adversity, that can't follow rules, can't maintain composure under pressure. And that's not what people want in a president. Even Trump supporters want to see him as strong, as in control, as winning. But getting dragged out of court doesn't look like winning, looks like losing. Looks like Trump completely losing it. And that damages his political brand, makes him look weaker, more desperate, more unhinged. And that political damage is hard to repair, because it's not just a story someone told. It's not just a rumor. It happened in open court, with witnesses, with a transcript. It's documented. It's real. And Trump can't spin it away, can't claim it didn't happen, has to live with the fact that he got physically removed from a courtroom because he couldn't follow basic rules. Now let's talk about what this reveals about Trump's mindset. Because Trump's courtroom behavior shows he genuinely believes he's above the law, genuinely thinks rules don't apply to him, genuinely believes judges shouldn't have authority over him. And that belief is dangerous because when someone with that much power, someone who's president, believes they're above the law, they'll abuse that power. They'll violate rights. They'll break rules. They'll do whatever they want because they don't believe there are consequences, don't believe anyone can stop them. And Trump's courtroom behavior proves that mindset, proves Trump thinks he's untouchable. And judges are seeing it, are recognizing it, are responding to it by enforcing rules more strictly, by making clear that Trump isn't special, that he has to follow the same laws as everyone else. And that enforcement is crucial because it's the only thing that constrains someone who believes they're above the law. If judges didn't enforce rules against Trump, if they let him get away with courtroom outbursts and contemptuous behavior, Trump would take that as confirmation that he's right, that he is above the law, that rules don't apply to him. But judges aren't doing that. They're enforcing rules, removing Trump when necessary, sanctioning him, and showing that even presidents have to follow the law. And there's the precedent this sets, because future judges now have this example. Judges left to the November 2025 hearing where Trump was physically removed, and they can reference it, can say, another judge had to remove Trump for similar behavior. We're prepared to do the same if necessary. That precedent gives judges confidence, gives them authority, lets them know they won't be criticized for enforcing rules against Trump because it's been done before. The president exists, and that's good for the rule of law, good for judicial authority, because it means Trump can't just bully judges, can't just intimidate them with his position or his threats. Judges know they have the power to remove him, have the authority to sanction him, and they're willing to use it. That's a check on Trump's power, a real, enforceable check. And Trump is learning that judges won't back down, won't be intimidated, will enforce rules no matter who Trump is or what position he holds. Now, let's talk about Trump's lawyers and the sanctions against them. Because the judge didn't just punish Trump, sanctioned Trump's lawyers too, kicked them out of the proceedings. And that's significant because it sends a message to Trump's legal team. You have a professional responsibility to control your client, to prevent disruptions, to ensure your client follows courtroom rules. And if you fail to do that, there are consequences. You get sanctioned, you get expelled from proceedings, you face professional discipline. And that puts pressure on Trump's lawyers, makes them more likely to try to control Trump in future hearings, more likely to warn him about consequences, more likely to try to prevent outbursts because they don't want to get sanctioned again, don't want to face professional discipline, don't want to be seen as enablers of Trump's contemptuous behavior. So the sanctions against Trump's lawyers create an additional check on Trump because now his own lawyers have incentive to constrain him, to make him follow rules, to prevent the kind of behavior that got everyone kicked out of court. And the worst part for Trump is that this will happen again, because Trump hasn't learned anything, hasn't changed his behavior, still believes he's above the law. So the next time he's in court, the next time things aren't going his way, he'll probably act out again, will probably disrupt proceedings, will probably declare himself above judicial authority. And judges will respond the same way. We'll remove him, we'll sanction him, we'll enforce rules. And each time it happens, Trump looks worse, looks more unhinged, looks more out of control, and creates more evidence of his contemptuous behavior, more precedent for judges to use, more ammunition for his opponents. Trump is trapped in a cycle of believing he's above the law, acting on that belief, facing consequences, and then refusing to learn from those consequences. And that cycle is destroying him, is destroying his legal position, is destroying his political brand, is destroying his credibility. All because Trump can't accept that he's not untouchable, that he has to follow rules like everyone else, that judges have power over him. That's the lesson of the November 2025 courtroom removal. That's the meaning of Trump's insane confession. That's the reality Trump is facing. And it's a reality he created through his own behavior, through his own admissions, through his own belief that he's above the law. And now he's paying the price, being dragged from court, being sanctioned, being exposed as someone who can't follow rules, who can't control himself, who can't accept judicial authority, then that's Trump's reality now. And it's only going to get worse because Trump won't change, won't learn, won't adapt. So judges will keep enforcing rules, keep removing him when necessary, keep sanctioning him, keep making clear that Trump isn't special, isn't above the law, isn't untouchable. And Trump will keep suffering the consequences, keep facing humiliation, keep creating more evidence against himself. That's the cycle. That's the pattern. That's Trump's nightmare playing out in real time, one courtroom disaster at a time.